Oh, great. So again, hello, everybody. I'm David Blockstein with Bard College, and I am the co-director of Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week. Everybody who is on, other than our guest speakers, are people who we have already um, been working with. So I will forego the introduction to Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week, and I will go right into introduction of the topic in our programs. So, we have people with us from around the world, and one of the goals that we have here is to build community as well as to in, enhance climate and climate change, climate solutions, climate justice education from where you are. So what we want to do today is many of you have said, you want to continue connecting with each other and with other people who are working in the same field. And um, fortunately, there are some really good networks that exist already and opportunities for you to participate in them. And so that's our topic today. And I will turn to two of our guests from Columbia University and the Columbia Climate School in New York City, Laurel Zaima-Sheehy and Dannie Dinh. And we will ask you to give us a presentation about some of the things that you all are leading from the Columbia Climate School. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, David. Thanks so much for having us. Let me just pull up our slides here. And it's so nice to meet everyone. Thank you for joining us in the morning, in the evening, wherever you are. It's really nice to meet you all. And I look forward to, hopefully after this session, us continuing the conversation, especially around the collaboration of climate education and climate justice education. Real quick, can you see my slides? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Amazing. So my name is Laurel Zaima-Sheehy. I am the Assistant Director of K-12 and Continuing Education at the Columbia Climate School. So in short, my role is to take the research and the scholarship of the school and the university and bring it out into non-degree seeking audiences. So that includes professional learners, teachers, high school students, and the general public. And the goal for that is that everyone needs to have climate information. Everyone needs to incorporate it into their current work. And so this is really important to bring the knowledge that we're, working with practitioners and researchers at the university, and hopefully taking that knowledge and working with people that are going to apply it directly into solutions. And I'm here with my co-director of the Earth Network, Dannie. I'll let Dannie introduce herself.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for doing your self-introduction. It's really good to know that I'm amongst colleagues that are also working in the climate education space. I work as a researcher and a program manager at the climate school. I'm part of a small research team that's working on sustainable food systems. So we're applying the latest research and advancement in climate science, in food nutrition science, and try to actually integrate that into pilot projects and policy development in developing countries, in the communities where this information, these insights can be really valuable and useful. So I have worked and collaborated with Laura and Radhika and others across the universities over the year, but we're here to talk more about how we came together to co-found this Earth Network, and so that we could have the space and many more opportunities to work more closely together on climate education.
And a quick plug, Radhika's our other co-director who is not able to be here today, but actually Radhika's leading the evening session, Eastern time, I guess, to talk about another network. So if you are available, definitely check out her session tonight. Okay.
So as you all maybe already be aware, climate change is a big problem, and it's the urgency to actually get working on the actions, the strategies, and implementing what we can so that we can be better, develop resilience, and continue to sustain our society through this crisis. But as you notice that in the Sustainable Goal Development Agenda from the UN, it's kind of isolate climate action into this separate bucket. And we know that the communities and areas where climate change is being the most impactful, these communities are vulnerable to all of these extreme events and changes. They also tend to be the least developed, making them more exposed to these risks. And they also have fewer resources for preparation and response and recovery. Next slide, please. So in reality, what climate does is that it's going to affect every single bucket that we see here and more, all sectors and aspects of society. So that there's that disconnection, and that is something that a lot of efforts and strategies in recent years in sustainable development have tried to address. Is that how could we use the latest research, the latest insights on climate science, on policy research, so that we could actively improve decision makings and policy making all across these different fields. And we've made a lot of progress in agriculture and health and water and disaster management. Increasingly, climate is becoming a crucial integrated part of policy making, of decision making, and how the public is being advised. But coupled with all of this knowledge is that we also have a lot of gaps in capacity that we have to build up. People that train to be nurses, to be doctors, to be disaster managers, how can they be empowered with more knowledge about climate itself, the basics, the fundamentals, just enough so that they could do their work. And so alongside with research, we also have to focus on education at all levels. And at this moment, I think it's a space where we would also invite discussion from all of you in the US, where the federal government agencies and branches that are typically responsible for advancing and integrating science for public health and safety, these branches, these offices are being decimated, weakened, dismantled. And the nonprofits, the NGOs that are also working in this space are facing tremendous challenges, from the removal of the public funding to the unexpected cancellations of contracts and funds that have already been committed. There's a lot of needs that are urgent right now. Next slide, please. So that before all of the even this current year, we all our colleagues across Columbia University and specifically at the climate school come to recognize that there's so many of us working on different research projects, different initiatives all around the world. We're engaging with communities and we're gathering insights. We're accumulating these experiences. We're also actively developing curriculums, educational programmings and offerings for the public, for K-12, non-degree offerings. So we have accumulated quite a wealth of resources, and we're also doing a lot of things often on a voluntary basis, and so it's not a coordinated effort, but we all want so much to help support and develop climate education, especially in the public and K-12 space. And so we came together, Radhika and Laurel and I, and many other colleagues, to form this Earth Network, which helps us provide this framework of support so that we could better collaborate across ourselves within the university, but also to help promote fresh approaches to research, to education, and impact on themes related to climate, sustainability, future of our planet. So the networks that are being formed at the climate school, there's different networks on different topics, but typically they're a 3-year working groups. And they can be formed on any topic, and we recognize and we want to come together for climate education specifically, and especially to address this kind of climate anxiety that is brewing and growing amongst young people, especially being bombarded with all of this really doom and gloom, a lot of information about, this drastic impacts that are going to affect their lives, but not really being empowered with information and knowledge so that they can make decisions, they can make changes, or they can feel like they have, the power to be a part of the solution and not just continue to create and exacerbate the problem. And now I'm going to hand over to Laurel.
Thanks, Danny. I also just want to really emphasize something that you said about the Earth networks and the networks in general and the importance of them, because climate change is this wicked problem that has its tendrils into every aspect of our life. And so when we're thinking about solutions, they really do need to be interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary to address some of the complexities of the challenges we're facing. And so that understanding, I'm sure many of you already know, but how do we get to solutions? How do we get different stakeholders with backgrounds, various backgrounds and perspectives in the same room to have these discussions, to then kind of think towards solutions? It's really challenging. And so the Earth Network was born out of that idea of, we need to get, if there are people from public health, from Teachers College, from the climate school, from the Center for Sustainable Development, if we have all these experts that are working in an area like climate education, we need to get them all in a room together to start collaborating, thinking through what they've done, what are the gaps, and then through that collaboration, hopefully address some of those and kind of strengthen the work that we've already done. So that was kind of our initial goal. But as we were working through the Earth Network, we were like, this cannot be siloed in academia. It really needs to incorporate other stakeholders, informal and formal educators, students, from all levels, like K-12, undergraduate, graduate students. So we've been starting to kind of spread out and network with people. And so we're really excited to be here to share a little bit more about our network and what we've done so far. So in our first year, you can imagine when you're bringing all these stakeholders together, they all have different priorities in terms of what they want to achieve in something as big as climate education. So we had this 2-hour working group session where we went through all the priorities of our members and then tried to hone in buckets so we could really get some achievements done in this short 3-year time span, and hopefully, build a network strong enough that will extend much longer than the 3-year funding period. And so what we found were these 4 primary focus areas. First, a needs assessment, just to better understand what are the educational needs by teachers of all levels, informal, formal, and also students. What are they feeling like they're lacking in their classroom or in their extracurricular educational activities? And so through that needs assessment, we can then really focus our work better to support these different stakeholders. The next piece that we identified was that we already in our member network have a lot of resources and lessons and activities that have already been developed. So instead of recreating the wheel, let's leverage some of these tools and make them hyper visible on our website, but also by sharing in networks such as this, sharing with our colleagues so they can be used. I think one of the challenges for educators is if they're just entering into the climate education space, there is so much material already out there. So it's almost overwhelming for them, and they sometimes don't know where to start. So we're hoping that in tandem, a toolkit that kind of is a best practices, how to guide, how to start teaching climate in tandem with a resource hub of things that have already been developed that could be plug and play into the classroom. We're hoping that that can really help support teachers. So we're in the works of building that now. This climate education curriculum development, we wanted to focus in on high school students first, but we also noticed that in teaching climate, it needs to intersect with all subjects really, and that's very difficult. And some areas around the world are doing it better than others, but how can we support that? So this is, I think, a longer term project, but it's something that we've been thinking about because we have so many experts and researchers and practitioners that are intersecting on these topics already. How do we pull that expertise into a really comprehensive curriculum that also could be embedded into various schools? And then finally, training the trainers is so critical because as educators in a higher ed institution, we can only reach so many students. So if we can work with teachers and support them in the ways that we can so they can teach in their classroom, we'll have a much bigger footprint. So these are our 4 primary goals. And we realized that in our member network, we started first with the working groups, but it kind of spread ourselves too thin. So then we were like, all right, in the second half of year 1 and into year 2, let's hone in on a few. And so we did just that. And so right now we have completed a needs assessment and have a toolkit developed from young people. We are in the process of collecting all the resources across the university to put it in this resource hub, and then we went through a teacher training. So I can dive into a little bit more about that. So,
And I can
yes.
add to a little bit about, the benefit of coming together and doing this together is that, a lot of us are self-funded researchers and programmers across the university. So by working through these focus areas, we actually have better ideas of where the needs are, what kind of resources are available, what kind of gaps are we able to fill, or maybe meet some of the demands that are rising in the communities that we work in, so that we could write proposals to get funding so that we can continue to do this work, more sustainably. And yeah, so that's now Laurel will go through some of these activities.
Thanks, Danny. No, that's exactly right. I mean, so we have a small bit of seed funding for 3 years, but our goal is to continue this network, and we're going to need proposals. We're going to need some bigger long-term projects in the pipeline. So diving in a little bit from what we've done and where we're going. So this is the Resource Hub vision. As I mentioned, we have so much across the university that's already been created. So our goal is to have this landing page of open source materials that can be either lessons that could be tweaked or directly copied into a classroom, activities that could support some lessons. We could also have some resources that just kind of allow teachers to learn more about a climate topic. So this resource hub is going to be all encompassing, and we have a few examples here already on our website, but there are so many more we found in our member network and beyond. So we have some resources created by the Research Institute of Climate and Society. We have a group of polar geophysicists that created a whole bunch of lessons for students to connect to this really distant but important part of our world, especially when it comes to climate and climate impact. So polar outreach and curriculum design. And then because we're in New York and place-based and field-based education is really a core pedagogical teaching approach that we use, we have a whole series of Hudson River lessons that can be used for teachers everywhere, but primarily teachers locally really like to use that stuff. So we're in the works of getting this live. You can scan this QR code if you would like us to send you an email once it is live, so you have access to all these resources. And we'll put this link in the chat as well. Next, we need a toolkit. So teachers or educators really that are starting in the climate space, they have a how-to guide, so they feel supported. This is a toolkit that was created by young people, actually, from the Eco Ambassadors program. It's called the Global Citizen Education Toolkit. You can see their core principles here, as well as their framework of design. So this is a project that was really led up by Han and Radhika from the Center for Sustainable Development, as they work with the Eco Ambassadors annually every year. And Han, unfortunately, is not able to be here today and mentioned that the toolkit, they're working on getting it live and open sourced as well, but it is complete and it's actually being piloted in the high schools of the Eco Ambassadors right now. So if this is something you're also interested in, you can put in, you can go into that QR code or that link, and we'd be happy to share it with you as well. Teaching teachers, training the trainers is really a part of our mission as well, as mentioned. So this year we worked with the Center for Sustainable Futures at Teachers College, as well as the New York City Public Schools team, to join their Midwinter Climate Institute, which is this 3-day event that is during their midwinter break to teach teachers the intersections of climate and their topic. So it wasn't just science teachers. You had, language arts, you had math, you had, language teachers like Spanish and etc. So it was a really incredible way for them to envision how they themselves can plug some of the resources and materials they learned from us and other speakers into their lessons. There were over 500 K-12 educators that joined us. So it was just a wonderful way to meet, chat with teachers, and share some of the resources that we already have. Some of the presentations that were shared: Disasters 101 from an expert from the National Center for Disaster Preparedness, Josh DiMincenzo. He co-presented with a Nassau County, Long Island public school teacher, as well as a student, which was amazing to see from all these different perspectives how lessons like this rolled out for them. We had a series of panelists from the climate school share about the K-12 programming and lessons learned that we've uncovered after years of deploying some of this with students ourselves. We had a lesson on microplastics in you, exploring climate messages from the Arctic, and then collaborative learning for climate actions and the ages of globalization as well. So these are all, if any of these topics are of interest to you, they're going to be a part of our resource hub as well. Hi, David. I saw you pop on. How are we doing? Are we going over on time? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah, I've been here. I just had the camera off, but yeah, you
Okay.
guys are doing great. So keep going.
Okay. I thought that was a warning, like
No,
wrap me
no,
up.
no. You take as much time as you need.
Okay, great. Um, so we also, there's so much expertise out there that we wanted to start partnering with other people in the education space to learn about different effective ways to connect students with climate topics. So I see Richard's on the call, which is great. We worked with the Energetic Group to host a board game event to teach faculty, staff, educators, as well as undergraduate students about we played the board game and we learned about the need for cooperation and system change to transform New York City's energy system. It was really fun. We would love to do it again. And Danny and I are actually in the talks of how do we purchase some of these games. So that is a really powerful way to, gamify education. So excited about that. Hoping to do more of that type of training for us as well. And then as a network, this is outside of our job, outside of our roles and responsibilities, really. So people in our member network, they're really a part of it, seeing this bigger vision, this bigger purpose. So sometimes that means it's hard to get people in the same room to talk about things because people are so busy and you have to prioritize your job, and we totally understand. So one of the things that we found is a great way to get people physically in the same room is to have happy hours. It also is just a very informal, casual way to talk about your work, to think about collaborations without the pressures of a formal meeting. Sometimes that brings a different energy into the room, whereas happy hours with a little bit of food and some light drinks is just a great way to also build community. So we found that as an effective strategy as well. Okay, and finally, where we're going, Earth Month is rapidly approaching, and so we have these 6 different sessions that are a part of the Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week that we are excited to share with you all. They're all virtual, so anyone around the world is able to attend, And this is not just members of our Climate Education for a Resilient Future Earth Network, but also colleagues of Radhika's from the Center for Sustainable Development. So I think Radhika will share a little bit more about that in this evening session, but we will put this link in the chat. And so we would really love for you all to join us. And so we can continue the conversation. Perfect. So we're happy to take questions. Here's that QR code for the resource hub again, and we can put, I think Danny may have already been putting things in the chat. Amazing. Thanks, Danny. But yeah, we'd love to see you at one of our future events.
Well, excuse me, that is incredible. Just great resources. I love the fact that you had more than 500 educators at your Midwinter Climate Institute. So I guess maybe you've mentioned this a little bit, but maybe you could, and we'll have a chance for others to ask questions, but just a little bit more in terms of how can people who are not in New York City participate, and what are some of the very specific ways that they can engage? You put in the signups and things, but maybe just a little bit more for that on that, please.
Absolutely. So we have these upcoming events, but if you're interested in being a part of our Earth Network, we would love to have you. We'll put what we can, I mean, our emails are here, but I'll also put them in the chat. Feel free to reach out to us. Right now, our regular meetings had been happy hours because we were finding limited attendance when it was a hybrid style. I think, again, people are just so busy. But if we have folks that would like to join us that aren't in the area, we would happily bring those back, because I think that will just empower our network and the work that we do.
Yeah, that would be great, because yeah, I mean, we've been doing since January these weekly um, webinars and presentations and discussions, and some of the people here actually are some of our very core people who are with us many weeks. We'll be going through April and then taking a break. But if you and others have ways for them to continue these conversations, I think there'd be a lot of interest.
Oh,
Yeah,
that just reminded me, David. We have a newsletter. So we're also happy to add you to the newsletter if you're interested. So if you can stay up to date with our Earth Network. If you're not sure if you want to be a part of all the planning meetings, but you want to join events whenever we have them, we can absolutely add you to that as well.
Great, thank you. All
yeah,
right,
and
are
as we
there
mentioned,
any? Yeah, go ahead,
sorry,
Danny.
David, as we mentioned earlier, the point of having this Earth Network is to connect with the larger community so that we can, have more concerted effort to create these collaborations and sustain them through proposal writing and fundraising. And so if you have ideas, if you know that there's a need somewhere, and that especially related to the climate education, or if you see some of the resources that are being available, you want to propose a training event, an event, or anything, we're all open for ideas. So please get in touch with us. Stay in touch via the newsletter, but we also always love to chat and discuss what we can do together or how we can help you.
Well, wonderful. Go ahead, Delaney. And you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself earlier, so why don't you introduce yourself as well as ask your question or comment?
Sure, yeah, sorry I was late. My name is Delaney Malloy. I am from Oakton College in Des Plaines, Illinois. This came across my desk and I was so appreciative and just very excited to attend. So just to speak on that a little bit, I come from like a 2-year college. We have a very small group of students here, but they're very passionate. So for you guys to be providing resources and creating a community, even though it's just in New York right now, it's very comforting for someone who's all the way in Des Plaines to see this work happening. And it's very exciting to me to have these resources and implement them here. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Delaney. yeah, if you or any of your students are interested in joining us, we'd love to expand out into Illinois as well.
That would be great.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments at the moment? All right, well, as was mentioned, our other presenter, Heian, um, unfortunately is not with us because of a medical emergency, but she was kind enough to share her presentation. And actually, we'll send this by email. And Danny and Laurel, if you wouldn't mind sending me a copy of your presentation as well, we'll send that out to everybody along with the link. So I actually am somewhat familiar with their project, Mission 4.7 that Danny and Radhika and Yengar, who will be presenting at our 8 p.m. Eastern Time session tonight. So I'm going to share um, the presentation that was provided by Heian and walk through that and give you it certainly is not going to be exactly in the way that she would have presented it, but I think it will still um, be valuable for me to just kind of go through this. So as um, Laurel and Danny mentioned, that a lot of the um, activity on this is really focused on this through the Sustainable Development Goals. And as you may know, Sustainable Development Goal 4 is education, and specifically education. Subgoal 4.7 is education for sustainable development. And so Radhika from the Climate School has put together a group that is working with the Secretariat through UNESCO. Um, and I will say that I don't understand all of the UN bureaucracy by any means, but that has created this network of um, educators and others to implement this mission of transforming education for sustainable development. And as you can see here, there are a number of groups that are involved in this. I will just mention, UNESCO as the coordinating body, and there's a group called the Sustainable Development Support Network, which is a an NGO and educator and academic collection of people supporting the Sustainable Development Goals that has been occasionally. Last year they were meeting by Zoom monthly. We have not been doing that this year. And then also the SDG Academy has an amazing number of curricular resources. So you could also just search under the SDG Academy and see they, in addition to curricular resources, they also have online courses as well, short courses. So um, the goal here is how do we really transform education to achieve the goals of um, the Paris Climate Agreement, the 2023 agenda, bringing together knowledge, skills, competencies, and values, and through this sustainable development goal. And you can see some of the elements here of education for sustainable development, global citizenship, which I think the group that we have today is a great representation of that, environment and climate education, obviously, and as well as education on peace and human rights, because justice is really a core component of achieving sustainable development goals. So it's important that, I mean, you guys know because you're here, to have these networks to bring people together. And so the Mission 4.7 network includes academics, it includes practitioners, it includes civil society, the NGOs, and others. And the idea is that we all come together and we share what we can do and what we need to do, and we try to do things together. So, as I mentioned, it builds on the this UNESCO leadership, and there is a group that has been formed called the Greening Education Partnership, and it includes nearly 100 countries. Member states is UN jargon for UN members, essentially. Uh, More than 1,600 organizations. The idea is to create a collaborative platform for governments that, especially governments that don't have um, as much education for sustainability, to use resources that are developed to green the school, to green curriculum. There's a guidance, a draft curriculum and guidance that is being developed through this Greening Education Partnership. They are working in developing standards for education, and then training capacity, and then also roles for lifelong learning in greening communities. Um, and actually at the same time that we're doing this, there is a meeting on of the Greening Education Partnership working groups. It's going to go on for the next couple hours, and I think at the time that we um, are finishing this webinar is going to be the session on higher ed. So I will put the link to join that in the chat if you happen to have another hour or two and you want to just listen in and check it out. And also I'll send you the recording of that as well. So the types of collaboration, we're looking at how do we catalog kind of what's going on in education for sustainability. We're trying to both build the community, build a resource library. There's conversation about a mapping project to put together a global map of different practices and different communities. And again, to try to bring us all together. And there will be, I'm not exactly sure what this event is in terms of viewing the Mission 4.7 resource library, but we can get information on that and share that with you in follow-up email. So types of collaboration, there some of this takes place centered around the meeting of the UN General Assembly in September of each year, which also occurs during Climate Week New York City, or maybe Climate Week New York City occurs during the General Assembly, but I guess the General Assembly has been going on longer. There is a summit of the future that occurs there that again brings together educators, not only in climate, but in other aspects of education for sustainability. Um, these groups hold meetings at the climate conferences, the convention, the parties, and other events. Um, so people come together. They excuse me, can develop reports, briefs, policy aids, things that are bringing the wisdom of the community and trying to share that with decision makers. So as an example, here is a guide for policymakers that is being developed on um, how to engage youth in working towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see that there are a lot of partners in that, um, and they are both developing a research agenda and also transformative education summit. Another related thing that is coming from the um, Columbia Climate School is a virtual course that is led by Jeffrey Sachs, the head of the Columbia Climate School and Earth Institute. This is a course that anybody around the world can join. I think, I don't remember, it's uh, maybe 10 or 12 sessions called Ages of Globalization. And there is an online um, text that people read and follow, their weekly presentations, and
Answer.
um, it puts in it's available for free. I don't know, Laurel or Danny, do you have other information about the Ages of Globalization that you could share on this?
Sure. I believe, here, let me put the link in the chat.
Yeah, and the link is on the bottom of the slide, but put in the chat too, please. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Um, So yeah, I think Jeffrey Sachs has traveled extensively around the world, and so the idea
Yes.
of Ages of Globalization is to take some of the videos, educational videos that he's taken, and create a curriculum around it. And so it goes through the different ages of globalization all over the world, and it talks about how these different time periods has really shaped the culture and the infrastructure and the society that is existing there today. And there are a whole lot of sessions. I can't remember how many either, but on the website you can see them. And I think they just did a pilot of the lessons this fall.
Right.
And I think
Mhm.
for free and open source, you're able to access a few of the videos. But I don't know, I don't think the whole curriculum is open source. But I could be
Okay.
wrong about that.
Okay, yeah, we can check into that, but yeah, I would love to be able to take this virtual course from Professor Sachs and hope to figure out a way to work that into my schedule as well. Yeah, but so yeah, so check out agesofglobalization.com is the website there. And then as um, was mentioned in the previous presentation, that the Columbia Center for Sustainable Development and the Columbia Climate School are active participants in Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week. And you can see that they even have one um, virtual event that is taking place the following week, which is just fine. But we will, um, we are compiling a list of virtual and hybrid events that will be taking place throughout Earth Month. And we will be highlighting that. We'll be sharing that on our website on our Tuesday webinar on April 8th. We will be talking about the different virtual and hybrid events. So, for those of you who are organizing your own events and you have a virtual component, just make sure that your dot on the map, your information as you've registered with us indicates that that you do have a virtual component and provide the link for registration or joining so we can share that out. Um, Join us in 2 weeks to hear about some of these other ones, because our goal here is to not just educate locally, but to educate globally. And so, it'll be very wonderful for people around the world to be able to participate in these virtual panels from Columbia University and from some of the ones that you're doing, et cetera. So I will stop the sharing now and then mention one other. This is actually an in-person opportunity that will be taking place in June. There is a global conference that will be taking place in Chicago, Illinois, um, June 16th through 19th. It's called the Sustainability Research Initiative, I think, SRI 2025 um, Congress. It will take place, as I say, in Chicago, Illinois, June um, 16th through 19th. I'll again send some information in the follow-up. So if we don't have your email, just make sure that we do put it in the chat so that we can send you the follow-up. We, along with one of our active partners, Bradley University from Peoria, Illinois, have um, 2 sessions that we propose that have been accepted. One is an educator workshop that will be for teachers of um, from K-12, well, more secondary education and higher education. Um, and the other is a student event for high school students, college students, graduate students, and that will be more of an open source. It'll be combining a poster session where the students, if they've done projects relating to sustainable development, sustainability education, climate education, um, that they can display a poster, and then there'll be an open source facilitated conversation. So basically to create an opportunity for students to come together with them really controlling the agenda and saying, what do we want to do? What are the ways that we can be working together? And how do we form practices and communities? The forum, the Congress is supported by 2 groups called the Belmont Forum and what's the other one? I can't remember the other one now, but they do actually provide funding for sustainable development activities through national funding sources and others. So there may be opportunities for follow-up funding from that. Um, Through Bradley University, we have applied for a workshop grant from the National Science Foundation, which still is in the grant giving business, to provide scholarships for students to come and present at this Congress. I'll be sending out something fairly soon about the Congress and the opportunities. We probably won't know until May as to whether we're actually going to get the funding or not. And so we'll be looking just kind of for expressions of interest. And then when we do, and I think we will get this funding, we will have a call for proposals for students to actually get funding to come to this Congress. I will say that because of the way that the National Science Foundation is operating at the moment, that we've only applied explicitly for funding for US students, but one of our partners, the HBCU, the Historically Black College and University Green Fund, is, I think, trying to get some funding to support international participants as well. So we will keep you posted on all of that. So are there any questions or comments, either from the earlier excellent presentation from Dannie and Laurel, or from my attempt to present Hyen's presentation, or just other questions or comments about the whole topic of networks and how to participate? Let me share the the link if any of you do want to go and check out this Greening Education Partnership meeting. Just click right onto the link that I just provided in the chat. It's already started, but the higher education session is at starting in about 5 minutes, I believe, and you're welcome to just join and listen in on that. So I guess I will just conclude by thanking Laurel and Dannie, thanking Hyen in absence. Thank all of you for coming. We will continue, as I say, these webinars through Earth. I'm not sure if we're going to do anything on Earth Day or not. Probably not. So I guess through the next few weeks. And so just in terms of what's coming up, next week is going to be kind of like an open office hours and sharing thing that we're interested in hearing what you're planning to do for Worldwide Climate and Justice Education Week. And if you want to share with others what you're doing, try to get some feedback, um, do some promotion of virtual events, whatever, come and join us next week. The week after that, we will have um, the focus on virtual and hybrid events to let you know what's coming up, how you can participate. And then the week after that, we want to have you, for those of you who have made climate a class or made climate event or held, participated in Climate Education Games Day, we want you to come and report to us and tell us how it went and your ideas for what we can be doing better together. So, any final questions or comments from anybody?
For having us. It was great
Oh,
meeting
no,
everyone.
no, it was a fabulous presentation. It's I've heard about some of the things that you've been doing, but just to hear it all in a formalized way, very impressive. So thank you all for joining us um, from around the world, and please join us again next week.
Thank
And
you.
have a good
Thank
week.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.